A lawsuit has finally been filed against FINRA over the MMTLP market corruption. So what does the future look like? Keep watching as we go through the lawsuit along with recent news as well as my MMAT chart analysis and price prediction. But before we do that, subscribe to our channel Stox 101 for regular stock market updates. An investor named Rosa Tawil has moved court against FINRA and all its employees and workers for contributing to a fraud. The fraud that's being talked about is, of course, MMTLP's trades being halted by FINRA just a few days before the short squeeze. The document stated that FINRA does not have the authority to halt trading for more than 10 days in case of an emergency, yet to shield its friends from economic loss, FINRA is creating an unlawful restriction. If the corporations are found guilty of committing fraud, they'll be fined up to $100 million, and we'll discuss the rest while analyzing MMAT. So with all that in mind, let's analyze the charts. So as you guys can see right over now in the 1-day chart for MMAT, and as always, we'll first analyze the 1-day chart, then the 1-hour chart, and to end it off, we'll get to the 5-minute chart. But before we start this analysis, we have some things to discuss. First up, MMTLP is no longer on TradingView because, of course, well, what happened is that people have seen that in their trading accounts, MMTLP is gone and MMTZZZ or ZZZ, if that's how you pronounce it, is in their value with, of course, being the next bridge hydrocarbons contract shares, but it's priced at $0, right? Which, of course, I believe it's a short-term glitch or something like that, but that's, well, sad. But at the same time, I've found out on Twitter, someone tweeted this, that the MMAT stock is trading under the TRCH ticker on an exchange in Slovakia, I believe. Right, it's on a brokerage in Slovakia. It's still trading under TRCH. All of the price movements are similar, or rather the exact same to MMAT. That's MMAT, and it's honestly really weird, right? And of course, people are rightfully so questioning the fact that if FINRA had to halt the trading, why didn't they do it before 8th when the stock price, of course, went down from $9 to $2.9, right? Of course, buying action was over 90%, and at the same time, the price fell down by over 50%. Why did that happen? Well, that's up to FINRA to answer, right? At the same time, John BRDA, who's again a famous personality in the space, was on Fox Business, I believe, where he discussed this. And at the same time, Reddit and everyone else is discussing this as well because this, of course, is a violation of shareholder rights, right? In my opinion, this is a violation of shareholder rights because, as you guys already know, that their positions are basically gone into thin air, right? They had literally no control about it, right? They had no control on their positions. And in the interview that John BRDA was on, he talked about how naked shorting, right? How people, or rather corporations and hedge funds, trick people into buying up stocks that they're shorting on the naked side. And of course, once things get dirty, once they've made enough money, they actually trap them into a stock like MMTLP, which was never supposed to be traded. And then they go on to, kind of get those legal actions and stuff like that to make sure that the shorts never have to cover, right? So how did this happen? MMTLP, it was never supposed to be traded. At the same time, it traded through FINRA, and now FINRA has pretty much halted the trading a few days before the record date. And at the same time, next bridge hydrocarbons, there's literally no updates on that, right, where that's headed. Of course, I do believe and understand that the CEO itself, right, the CEO himself, Palikoras himself, got affected by this, and that's why he might not be making a public statement. But as for the legal part, I do believe that he should come out, and even if it's in the court, right, even if it's in a legal room, that still would be good. But he needs to give out a statement and at least ensure his shareholders that they're safe, right? He's with them. He has to do that. At the same time, if we talk about the lawsuit that Rosa Tawil has, filed, right? That lawsuit talks about a lot of things, beginning from the entire story, right? How MMTLP was illegally, not exactly illegally, how, what's the word? How it was put on the exchange basically when it was not supposed to be put on the exchange, and then how it continued to be shorted to that extent. And then, of course, they also mentioned the TRCH event as well, how TRCH buyers eventually got to do MMTLP, and then they were shorted and squeezed out of all of their money, right? And how they've been bearing that since 2021's June and probably May, I guess, right? But I'm pretty sure it was June. And that's basically the entire gist of the lawsuit, right? It talks about how FINRA is trying to defend a few people who have a lot of money and try to suck out retail investors' money for that, right? They're trying to make sure that now these are of course not this is not an official statement from my side. I'm just stating my opinion, right, for legal reasons. And at the same time, it's not financial advice either. All I'm saying is that people are furious and they're rightfully furious, right? They were supposed to be furious. They are furious because, of course, MMTLP, they've been looking forward to the squeeze. And now, when they open their account, they're like, oh, hey, shares are poofed, right? My shares are gone. And that's, of course, not supposed to happen to any shareholder out there. But now, if we talk about MMAT, right, what's in the future, right? Now we've talked enough about the present and the past. What does the future hold for us? If we talk about MMAT, investors are buying into the stock in the hopes that the patents that the company has and the intellectual properties that the company has will give us a good return in the future, right? If MMAT, of course, gets a good invention, then the company will probably go up a lot. And from the current market capitalization of $535 million, I believe it can easily go 5 or 10x from here, right? And then, of course, going 20x or 30x would be a bit harder. But if one of their products and services and technologies prove to be a hit, then definitely that is possible as well, right? I did get a lot of people in my comments that said that MMAT will probably go up by 30x, right? Which again, as I already told you, is possible, but it's a bit difficult. And if their product gets hit, right? If it gets um, viral, if it becomes famous, then sure, it is a possibility, right? At the same time, if we talk about further details, if we talk about what's going on in the pre-market, we'll have to jump on into the 1 hour chart to see the details. And now that we're in the 1 hour chart, we can see that despite going up yesterday, we're already down in the pre-market by a bit, but at the same time, we are recovering on that, right? We can see that on the extended trading hour session chart. And we can see that yesterday we got a pretty good session, right? Over here, we did hit a double top pretty much and a resistance around 1.38, 1.4 pretty much, right? After that, we fell down to pretty good support, right? A mutual support around 1.25. After that, of course, we went up, right? It was a pretty good trend. Ended the day off with a red bearish candle, right? A red pin bar candle to the downside, right? In the aftermarket, we did get a downtrend, and now we're kind of getting a continuation to that downtrend. So where exactly is the stock headed? Well, in my opinion, there are two ways that the stock can go. Of course, that's up and down, right? I do sound dumb at times like these, but now I'll talk with possibility percentages, right? So first up, if we talk about the overall trend, we might actually be in for a continuation, right? Because we've had a breather over here. So we might be in for a further downtrend continuing this path that we made over here. And we might actually have this small breather in between. And then we'll probably start the market off and then go down further, right? So this, in my opinion, has a bigger chance of happening. That's probably like 75%, right? And if we talk about the potential reversal, which I seriously don't know why that would happen because, well, MMTLP and MAT both are in a bad circumstance, right? George Palikras, he's in bad circumstances as well. The company is just, the investors in general are not in the mood for buying, right? So where's the stock headed? In my opinion, it's headed lower right now, but at the long term, the company is good, right? Of course, because of the patents. Again, luck does play a role in this stuff, but I do believe that Paligras might be able to play this out well, and at the same time, with the support that we had from the Reddit community, with the AMC apes, with the GMC community, right? All of these different meme stock and other trending stock communities, right? It might be a good thing. And even Wall Street Bets posted this thing on their Twitter, and they said that FINRA is doing what do you call it, a bad thing basically, and they said that it's up to Robinhood and other brokerages to decide on their own if they want to halt the buy button and not for FINRA, right? That's not up to FINRA to decide because, of course, that's an investor's and trader's right. But at the same time, I do want to see a bit more details on the stock, so we'll jump into the last chart. That is the 5-minute chart. And now that we're in the 5-minute chart, we can see that yes, we did get a good bull trend yesterday, right? We hit a pretty good support around 1.25. We can see that, right? At the same time, we were kind of range bound between 1.25 and 1.3, but when we broke out of that range and used this as a support, it was a pretty good buy trade over here, right? At 1.3 pretty much, with a $1.25 stop loss and $1.35 or well $1.4 target in that sense, right? That would have been a 1 to 2 ratio trade. Pretty good, 7% gain, right? How high did we go yesterday? Well, if we talk from $1.26, we made a high around 23%, but we pretty much ended the day off around 14%, right? That's still good. In the aftermarket, we did fall down. Pre-market started kind of low, and we've kind of recovered on that, so we might actually be in for a continuation to this bull run that we got over here, right? Even if we do that, I do believe that the stock will eventually have to come down because of the current circumstances. But now all investors have pinned their eyes on Rosa Towell's, what do you call it, lawsuit. And we'll honestly have to wait a bit and see how the results come out. But at the same time, I personally, I would say I'm bullish on MMAT, right? This is not financial advice because again, it's a risky stock, right? But at the same time, with risky stocks, I always propose this trading strategy to you guys that you can never use a stop loss in such plays, right? If we know that the stock can go down to zero, and at the same time it can go down to 100, right? You cannot use a stop loss. So what do? Well, if you were to about, let's say this is John, right? By this, of course, I'm not going to put up a drawing of a guy named John, right? Let's just assume that there's a guy named John and he purchased $100,000 of shares at $1.4, right? Or even just 100,000 shares at $1.4, right? And he's like, hey, I'll take a loss up to 5% and my profit would be at 10%, right? So how much would be a 5% loss on a $140,000, what do you call it, transaction? Well, that's $7,000, right? So why not just put in $7,000 and be like, hey, I'm going to wait for it either to go down to zero or to go down to, well, 100 or 500 or whatever, whatever you want to set your target at. But you will, of course, have to set a target and be a disciplined trader, right? You cannot practically hold for eternity, right? You will have to liquidate at one point and you want to know when you want to liquidate, right? At the same time, this most definitely is not financial advice. I could be wrong, so you should always do your own research before you trade. If, however, you enjoyed my analysis, be sure to hit the like button. If you did not enjoy it, be sure to hit the dislike button. You can subscribe to our channel Stox 101 for more such videos. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.